Welcome to the Irish Farmers Journal Weekly Podcast, brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy.
Hello, I'm Thomas Hubert, digital editor with the Irish Farmers Journal. This week started with the Farmers' March in protest at falling prices. Let's hear from our reporter who attended the demonstration in Dublin's city centre.
I want Phil Hogan to hear it in Brussels. EU action on income prices. Let's go again. EU action on income prices. One more time. EU action on income prices. We've Clare County Executive. Well done, Clare. We've Laois IFA over here, almost on the steps of the European Commission office. We've Westmeath County Executive.
I'm Lorcan Allen, journalist with the Irish Farmers Journal. On Monday this week, I followed the 2,000 farmers who had come from all over the country to protest outside the European Commission's office in Dublin. Farmers tipped grain in the street in protest at falling farm incomes, particularly in the grain, dairy and pig sectors. Leading the march, IFA President Eddie Downey called on politicians to stop talking about the situation and put some real action in place to tackle falling farm gate prices.
We're in a very difficult situation for Irish farmers. Product prices on the floor, grain, dairy, pig meat sector, all have non-existent incomes at this stage. Cash flow has dried up on farms. We're in an expensive time of the year. Children go back to college the same as everybody else in society, and our farm families simply can't find the cash to do that. It's a very serious situation for us. The message is clear. Farm incomes are under pressure. This is a key sector in a very fragile economy. We have seen what agriculture has done. We have seen what rural Ireland has done to help this economy recover. The political system cannot forget it. We need support at national level on taxation and volatility. We need support at EU level on international markets. The Chinese and the US market must open and must flow products into it. The EU market must remain open to every member of the EU market. What we want from Europe and we expect from Europe, which is free access to those markets and a proper price for our products we produce.
One of the farmers taking part in the protest was John Murphy, a dairy farmer from Newcastle in County Dublin. John brought one of his own cows to the march, and I asked him what kind of message he wanted to send out with this protest.
We're trying to encourage the EU to put a floor under the price of milk. We're after going from an unsustainable high down to an unsustainable low, and we're well below the cost of production at the moment, so things can't last too long this way.
Yeah, and this is your animal here. You're milking cows yourself, are you?
I am a dairy farmer indeed, yeah, liquid milk producer.
Okay, and you've really felt the pinch over the last...
Oh, very much so, since last January especially. We've been really took a hit, and as backwards it's going since, and don't look like stopping either.
No, it doesn't at the minute, alright, and it's a very negative mood, I suppose, in dairy markets at the minute.
Yeah.
What would be your call to Minister Hogan?
Well, I think that they'd want to at least flag that they're going to put a floor under it and encourage... The markets are still operating, only at a lower base, and they're kind of standing back waiting for it to fall further. But I think if the EU announced that they were going to put a floor under it, it would stop them speculating and waiting. They'd have to step in then and buy.
You're listening to the Irish Farmers Journal podcast, brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy.
Now let's turn to Ballinia, where 6 finalists selected from the ranks of Muckra were competing for the title of Young Farmer of the Year on Tuesday. The winner was Jonathan Marry, a pig farmer from County Louth. He told my colleague Odile Evans how he felt after collecting his trophy.
Pretty ecstatic. Wasn't expecting to win it at all, so I'm very proud and honoured, and hopefully I can do as well as the last lad done last year, so big feat to fill.
And tell me a little bit about your farm and your background. Well,
coming from a pig farming background all my life, I'm running my own farm now in Cullen, County Louth, and 540 sows, not fully integrated, with the plan to get it fully self-sufficient in the near future.
And what do you think is the future for Irish agriculture?
I think there is a strong future for Irish agriculture. Some of the best farming skills in Ireland versus anywhere in Europe. There's some great skills and some great young farmers coming through.
So now, for the next year, you're going to be the voice of young farmers of Ireland. Have you got any advice for young lads that are setting up, for other young pig farmers?
Well, I just know from my own sector, the pig sector is a very tough sector at the minute. It's going through a bad patch, but we'll get through it, and good times will come again. You just have to get through to stick with the bad times for the good times to follow, and as previous years have shown, it will come round. It's just a matter of sticking with it and doing as best you can.
And what do you see then as the problems on your farm? What do you need to overcome in the next few years?
Keeping biosecurity as tight as you can is probably one of the biggest things.
Do you have staff members as well, or is that an issue?
No, I'm just very fortunate enough to have some of the best staff in the country with me, allowing me to come to events such like this and knowing that the farm will be run as well as if I was there or not there. I suppose great staff is the key to any business. And
for the future of your business then, what do you intend to do over the next few years?
Well, look, I'm short just some fattening accommodation, so I hope to fulfil that. So I don't have to be selling. I can get all my pigs to slaughter, and then once I come over that hurdle, then hopefully then to go milling my own feed.
Yeah. So tell me more about milling there. How are you going to work that?
Well, I suppose feed credit is the biggest problem you're facing, is overcoming that. But basically, instead of buying feed from a compound miller, you can buy the straight into the farm itself and mill your own feed. Hopefully to a better spec ration than currently buying in. There's challenges in that too, the same as anything else, but I don't feel it'll be a problem. But a third of the pig farmers already doing it. Should be well achievable.
And are you looking forward to your year now?
I most definitely am. I haven't won anything like this before, so very excited about the year ahead.
Mm-hmm. And how did you find the judges today?
Very tough but very fair, and some few sticky questions, all right, but they were very straightforward questions, and I enjoyed the interview. And the other competitors then, how did you find them? Well, the same as most macro events, you always meet someone else new and make new friends. A pleasure to meet them, and some great fellas, and I look forward to meeting them again. And would you recommend other young farmers to go through the competition? Is it worthwhile? Definitely would, yeah. It's a great experience, even if I hadn't won, even getting as far as that, right through every stage, it's great even for your self-esteem and everything, just building self-confidence. It's magnificent. Brilliant. Okay. Best of luck over the next year. Thanks.
We hope that you're enjoying this Irish Farmers Journal podcast, brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy. Find out more at farmersjournal.ie.
Last month, I also met the outgoing Young Farmer of the Year, Sean O'Donnell. He's a dairy farmer from County Mayo and also a Nuffield scholar. He's used the research and travel grants from his awards as well as his experience at home to explore the best ways of milking cows on a block of land away from the main farm. I met him at the dairy conference that took place at the recent Virginia show, and I asked him about his conclusions.
I suppose, well, with the topic that I looked at, it was relation to overcoming and adapting to it. So in this country, most farmers are on average farming about 3.5 land blocks. So I looked at it from the point of view of bringing one of those land blocks into milk production, and I looked at 4 different scenarios, one being the milking robot, second being a zero grazing system, and the third being a second parlour on an outside farm, along with the fourth system being cows being milked once a day through a second parlour. And I suppose the findings that I had from that was that the second parlour option was probably the most sustainable and cost effective and profitable in the long term, and ultimately that the once a day system through a second parlour had the greatest opportunity for expansion, the greatest opportunity in terms of attracting labour to that system, and overall the profitability could be retained in that system almost as close to milking cows twice a day in a second parlour.
Is this specific to your farm, or do you think there is a model there for people in similar situations elsewhere?
It's not currently specific to my farm. It's something we're considering. We have an outblock of land that maybe potentially could be brought into milk production. At the moment we're focusing on expanding our home milking block, but down the line we're looking, I suppose, 5 years down the line, looking at it as an opportunity. And I would suggest that if I was to go onto a second farm or onto a second outblock, I would most likely go down the route of milking cows once a day in that system. This is not for every farmer. It's only going to probably apply to farmers who maybe are landlocked on small milking blocks, and maybe they have an out farm that maybe actually in some cases some of the farmers I met was larger than their home block, and maybe it was a mindset thing that was restricting them from actually moving their cows from that home block onto their outside farm. And maybe there's an opportunity there for them to go and do that. So it's not a blanket approach for every farmer in a fragmented scenario, but it will be suited to specific individual cases, and it has the potential. It will be less efficient, all right, than if all the lands were in one block, but ultimately it's still more profitable than maybe some of the other options in terms of going into other sectors or whatever.
There's a lot of hype around some technologies like robots and zero grazer. You've looked into them. What do you think?
Look, there's a lot of marketing, a lot of PR, a lot of hype surrounding, particularly in relation to the robot. Some of the information that's out there, you'd have to question it. I think we need some more scientific-based research done on these particular technologies. I think currently at the moment we're relying, as I said, on salesmanship and marketing and hype, and I think that's not a good place for any dairy farmer to be who's going to commit a substantial amount of money maybe in terms of investing in one of these pieces of equipment. So it's very vitally important that any research, that the research is there, so to say, and that it's done independently, maybe by Teagasc or some other entity.
Okay, Sean, thanks very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
The Irish Farmers Journal Weekly Podcast, brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy.
Another speaker at the show was Donagh Berry, a geneticist at Teagasc Moor Park. He was optimistic about the chances of improving fertility and health through improved breeding. But I first asked him whether the economic breeding index was still a good yardstick to go by when it comes to replacements in the new world of free market dairy farming.
The focus, I guess, of farmers in the pre-quota and the post-quota environment doesn't actually change. It still is profit focus. So the EBI pre and post-quota is still a profit-based index. The difference is that before we changed the EBI in 2007 for the non-quota environment, we had quota being the limiting factor. So you were restricted by the milk quota that you had. We altered it in 2007 to be land being the limiting factor. And what that actually did, of course, is just modified some of the emphasis, not considerably now, and put more emphasis on the milk production output per hectare and the costs per hectare.
You also said that there have been fertility issues since breeding was taken further in the past few years, but you're confident this is going away now. Can you explain this?
Yeah, so it's a phenomenon that has happened across the world, predominantly within the Holstein Friesian breed, that aggressive selection for milk production has resulted in a deterioration in fertility. And if you think about it from a biological standpoint, it makes sense. So from a nature versus nurture perspective, a cow has a calf. Her real goal in life is to keep feeding that calf until that calf is self-sustainable. So what a cow does when she produces a lot of milk, she essentially turns off her reproductive function. She doesn't want to have another calf until she is confident that the calf she currently has is going to survive. That is what has happened, is we have aggressively selected for more and more milk, and that has essentially turned off the reproductive system of the dairy cow. It's not unique to Ireland, it's a phenomenon that has happened across the world. Now what we're doing is that, so every cow has around 25,000 genes, several hundred of them affect milk, several hundred of them affect fertility. We have now found the tools that allow us to select for fertility and milk simultaneously. What will happen is that the rate of gain in milk production, it'll still increase, but the rate at which it increases will slow down, because you're not just selecting for one trait. You're selecting for two. And again, if you look at it from an athlete's perspective, if you focus on speed, you're probably going to get weaker in other attributes. But if you focus on muscle and speed, probably your speed won't gain as fast.
And another aspect of that is health. And you've said that there's good prospects to identify traits for better health and to avoid some diseases. How optimistic are you in this area?
Health, like any other trait, is predicated on the availability of lots of data. So if we want to identify bulls who have daughters who are healthy or not healthy, we need a load of data on those daughters to say that these daughters had health problems and these did not. You need considerably more than you do for the likes of milk production. The two most common diseases are mastitis and lameness. Really, the only place we can get that information is from farmers. So farmers need to record that data. We can do all the research in the world, but if that data is not forthcoming, we will make no progress in animal health. We have the other diseases, the notifiable diseases like TB and Jonas, etc., which we can get data routinely, but that's only a small proportion of the overall health aspect. We need farmers to record mastitis and lameness on cows so that we can do our analysis and find groups of cows that get more mastitis, they're associated or they're all the daughters of one particular bull, therefore we can say that bull's genetics predisposes his daughters to mastitis.
And that's a bit controversial because if we identify such bulls, then we have to take them out. There needs to be a program, compensation for all that. Is the industry ready for that kind of thing?
No, there doesn't need to be any compensation. All it is it's a new trait within the EBI. So when we brought in the EBI in the year 2001, we had no fertility evaluations. And there were bulls there like Jabot and lines like that who were terrible for fertility. So farmers did not want to use those bulls, and the AI stations, they were not forced to cull those bulls, but nobody wanted their semen. So logically, they fell out of the system. So if farmers want bulls who transmit genes for good, healthy cows, if we have the data to support that, farmers just won't buy bad, healthy bulls. And therefore, they'll just fall out of the system. The AI stations won't sell semen from unhealthy bulls. They won't buy young bulls whose genetics say that they are potentially going to produce unhealthy daughters. And just naturally will flow out of the system.
Donald Berry of Chuggis, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Irish Farmers Journal podcast, brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy.
Now, if you've renewed your car insurance recently, you must have noticed that premiums are going up. Consumer editor Ciara Leahy is looking into this issue in this week's Irish Country Living, and she told Amy Fitzgibbon that there is unfortunately no way around the current price hikes.
Car insurance prices are really going up steadily. I mean, this isn't news to a lot of people in the sense that they are ringing up and they are getting quotes that might have been 500 quid last year but are around the €700 mark this year. And so the reason that we decided to look at this article is to find out the reasons why. Why are people facing these price hikes? So as part of the article, I spoke to Conor Faulkner, who's the Director of Consumer Affairs with the AA, and also Conor Gilson, who's Company Secretary in FBT. I suppose a lot of our readers are FBT customers as well, and they have also been part of the companies who have announced that, these price increases.
Okay, so what are the reasons behind it?
Okay, so there's a few reasons that need to be taken into consideration. One very big reason, but three smaller reasons that are impacting on it. So I'll bring you through them first. First of all is that there is actually more traffic on the road. This is actually a good thing because it shows a period of economic recovery. It means more people are driving on the road, going to jobs. So that is good. But as a consequence of more people on the road, it does mean more claims. And I mean, really the statistics are showing that there's more people on the road. Car sales are up by 30%. Fuel sales have increased significantly. And just even from national road data, the motorways, especially the M50, are much busier. And that impacts on the amount of claims.
These claims, are they now more expensive to settle?
Yes, so this is another interesting reason behind why there are more hikes, exactly. Yeah. The claims now are more expensive to settle. More data is needed into why this is, but one contributing factor is that last year there was a change in court limits, increasing the maximum claim for personal injury from 38,000 to 60,000 euros, which is a massive jump. Now, look, that's not going to impact someone, who has a small accident and breaks their leg or whatever, but if there is a very serious accident claim, the price of settling it might be a lot more than 38,000.
Okay.
And as a result of that, we have statistics that show the average court claim is 20% more in 2014 than it was in 2013. Okay. That's a huge jump. That's a quarter,
Massive.
So, as a result, even if all things were to stand still, the motor insurance company would need to put through very substantial increases to absorb the claims inflation.
And I couldn't quite believe when I was reading your article, Ciara, that €60 of your policy is actually going towards funding those who don't have any insurance.
Yeah, so this is another reason, fraud. Yes, €60 of your policy. So if you're paying €500, €60 of that is actually going to cover a fund where people aren't insured. Now, look at it can go from very severe cases where people are actually, planning car crashes to make big claims to just actually people not claiming their penalty points properly. But that does impact, on the quote that's given from the insurance
You could buy something nice with €60 for yourself.
Exactly. So, approximately 6 to 8% of cars on the road are not insured properly, and that's all contributing to the price of the premiums that we pay. It's a hard bone to swallow, if you're like many of us that are, above board, paying your insurance. Yeah, it can be quite annoying.
And Ciara, you said there was one big contributing reason behind that. What is it?
Okay, fraud is an issue. Okay, traffic is an issue. Okay, the increased claims is an issue. But the biggest issue, without doubt, is the fact that we in Ireland have a very unstable car insurance market. Basically, from 2009 to 2013, there was a really vigorous price war in the car insurance industry. On the upside, we were getting great prices, but it turned out to be very reckless pricing, and as a result, we're paying the price now. I mean, a number of operators in particular acted very foolishly. Quinn Insurance, for example, was offering very low prices, but they weren't putting enough in reserves. Another epic failure was Totality Insurance, which left 870,000 people's policies null and void.
So if it's almost too good to be true, it kind of is.
Too good to be true, because as a result, we're left picking up the pieces of that now.
And shouldn't consumers feel very annoyed about all this?
Look, there's two ways of looking at it. Yes, you can be so annoyed going, look, it was the insurance companies that were doing this and now we have to pick up the pieces. On the other hand, we probably should have been charged the prices that we're being charged now back then. In order for it to be a good, stable market, we probably should have been charged around €600-700 a year for car insurance, rather than the 400 or 500 we might have been getting now. So from consumers' point of view, yes, it's really annoying that we are being faced with these big hikes now, especially for budgeting. Your household budget is very off-putting. But I mean, we did get very good prices during that time when there was that pricing war.
Yeah.
So I suppose it's kind of a reality that we have to face. But I think it's important that consumers know the reasons behind why, when they're ringing up these days, they might be getting an insurance quote that's €100-200 more expensive than what they got.
Yeah, and at least the insurance companies can supposedly back it up now the way they couldn't before.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that in the long run we might be paying the bigger prices, but we have a much more stable car insurance industry that will benefit everybody in the long run.
Okay, well that sounds fascinating. Thanks for talking to me, Ciara.
No problem. Thanks, Amy.
The Irish Farmers Journal podcast, online at farmersjournal.ie, on the Irish Farmers Journal app and on iTunes every Thursday. Brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy.